So I have a confession to make, a serious one.
Oh,
There are days, and I mean, honestly, probably 3 days out of 5, where I look around at my house, my job, all my responsibilities, and I get this distinct, sinking feeling
oh.
that I'm actually just 3 kids in a trench coat standing on each other's shoulders.
The classic trench coat syndrome. You are definitely not the only one peeking out from between the buttons, hoping no one notices.
It feels like I'm constantly just waiting for the real adults to show up and, tell me what to do.
But they never show up, do they?
They never show up. And today we're finding out that the room might actually be empty. We're digging into that specific anxiety, that feeling that adulthood is just a performance, a scam, or a role we are wholly unqualified to play.
We're calling it the great adulting charade.
Ugh.
And what's wild is that we found this exact same anxiety popping up everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So we started with these really raw late-night confessionals on Reddit.
Okay.
People just admitting, I have no clue what I'm doing.
I've seen those. They're very relatable.
But then when we looked at the academic side, developmental psychology, sociology, even neurobiology,
And they're saying the same thing.
they're describing the exact same phenomenon. It's incredible.
So we're crossing the streams. We've got Reddit memes meeting Harvard studies.
In a way, yes. We're pulling from Robert Kegan's developmental theory, Irving Goffman's analysis of social performance, and some hard data on brain maturation.
So the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty simple, even if the answer might be a little terrifying.
Right.
It's that question, is everyone else actually figuring it out?
And am I the only one faking it?
Yeah, exactly. Or is this feeling of being an imposter actually a structural feature of the modern human brain?
That's the question. Is it a bug in your programming,
Yeah.
or is it the operating system itself?
Let's start with the cultural side, because I think the biggest clue that something has shifted is the language we use. You've noticed this, right? The word adulting.
Adulting as a verb.
Exactly. It's not a noun anymore. It's not something you are.
It's something you do.
Yes. We looked at this analysis, and it points out how weird this shift is. If I pay a bill, or I schedule my own dentist appointment without my mom telling me to, I say, wow, I did so much adulting today.
It frames these basic survival tasks as, like, a performance, a feat of strength.
Right. It feels like I'm asking for a participation trophy for doing the bare minimum.
There is humor in it, for sure, but there's a lot of anxiety under the surface.
100%.
And the sources highlight that in the 1980s or 90s, the cultural trope about adults was completely different.
Yeah.
Back then, young people thought adults were.
Sellouts or jerks, they were the man. You rebelled against them.
Exactly, they were the establishment. But today, the trope isn't that adults are evil, it's that adults are imposters.
Imposter.
There's a Reddit thread we looked at, and this user, Unhappy Night, they talked about moving out at 23, and they described the world as feeling like it was made of cardboard.
Wow.
They said they're just tiptoeing through it, hoping no one notices I'm winging it.
That is such a vivid image, the cardboard world. And the data backs that feeling up, right? We saw that survey.
Yep. Over 80% of young adults feel anxious because they feel like they lack practical skills.
It's like they missed the manual.
Well, sociologists would argue they did miss the manual. Or maybe the manual got rewritten. Jeff Arnett calls this emerging adulthood.
Okay.
See, 50 years ago, you had the props of adulthood, much earlier.
Yeah.
In 1960, the median marriage age was, 20 for women?
Right. You bought a house, you had the steady job, you had the set design in place.
You stepped onto the stage, the props were there, the costume fit, and you just said the lines.
You just played the part.
Pretty much. But today, marriage is delayed. Home ownership is delayed. So you have people performing the actions of adulthood, paying taxes, working jobs, but without the traditional props that signal, I have arrived.
So it feels like pantomime.
It is pantomime.
Yeah.
You're doing all the work without the status. So naturally, it feels like a costume that doesn't quite fit.
Okay, that makes sense. The external markers are gone. That explains why a 24-year-old struggles. But
Yeah.
that doesn't explain why I feel this way or why my friends who are married with mortgages feel this way.
Right.
I know people who have the whole set design, and they still feel like frauds.
And that is where we have to leave sociology and look inward. Because having the house doesn't fix what's going on in your head.
So it's not the props.
It's not the props. This is where Robert Kegan's research totally changed my perspective. He's a developmental psychologist at Harvard, and his theory is, well, it explains a lot of suffering.
Kegan's orders of mind. I read through this, and honestly, it felt a little like being called out.
It's confronting, isn't it? Kegan argues that adulthood isn't about what you know. It's about the complexity of your mental software.
Okay.
And he says most of us are stuck in stage 3, the socialized mind.
The socialized mind. Let's break this down. To me, that sounds like being good at parties.
I wish. No, in the socialized mind, you are defined by your relationships and your roles. So imagine you have a board of directors in your head.
Okay, I'm picturing a boardroom. Who's sitting at the table?
Your mom, your boss, society, your partner, maybe that random guy on Twitter who yelled at you once.
Ah, definitely him.
When you have to make a decision, you don't look inside for the answer. You look at the board. You ask, what would a good employee do? What would a good parent do?
Oh.
You are looking for external cues to tell you who to be.
So if the board's happy, I feel good. But if the board is fighting...
You feel torn apart. And this is where the fake feeling comes from. If you're operating from a socialized mind, you literally are faking it in a sense because you are mimicking the expectations of others. You don't have your own voice yet.
You just have a chorus.
You have a chorus. There was that example in the source material about Walter, the teacher. It was a little heartbreaking.
Yeah, that really stuck with me.
Walter is the perfect example of a stage 3 adult.
Yeah.
He wants to be a good teacher, but his entire sense of self-worth relies on his students behaving and his principal approving of him.
So when things go wrong in the classroom, which they always do,
He doesn't just feel like he had a bad day. He feels crushed.
because he hasn't separated Walter, the person, from the teacher, the role.
He can't. His identity is the validation he gets from that role. Now, compare that to where we are supposed to be going. Stage 4, the self-authoring mind.
A self-authoring mind. This is the goal.
Right.
But does that mean you just ignore everyone else? Because that sounds a bit like being a narcissist.
It's a very subtle shift. You don't fire the board of directors. You just appoint yourself the chairperson.
Oh, I like that.
You still listen to your mom, you listen to society, but you make the final call based on your own internal value system.
So Walter at stage 4, let's call him Jose. That was the other case study.
Right, Jose. When Jose's students act out, he doesn't like it, of course not. But he doesn't feel destroyed by it. He can say, I value a respectful classroom, and this behavior violates that value, so I need to address it.
He separates his self-worth from the external outcome.
He is driving the bus. Walker is just a passenger.
Okay, I see the difference. But how does this connect back to feeling like 3 kids in a trench coat?
Because the transition between stage 3 and stage 4 is messy. It can take years. And the theory suggests that the sensation of pretending is actually the friction of that transition.
So we're just in the messy middle.
We're trying to act like we're the chairperson, but secretly we are terrified that the board is going to vote us out. We are legally adults, expected to be self-authored. But psychologically, many of us are still looking for an adult to tell us we're doing it right.
And then we realize there's no one there but us.
Exactly.
That is deeply validating, actually. It's not a character flaw.
It's a growing pain. But here's the thing. It's not just in our heads. It's also in how we interact with the world. Because even if I become the chairperson of my own brain, I still have to walk out the door and deal with other people.
And everyone else looks like they have it all figured out.
Which brings us to Irving Goffman, the theater guy.
Sociology as theater. I love this concept.
Goffman's dramaturgy. He argued that all social interaction is literally a performance. We have a front stage and a backstage.
Okay, so front stage is the Instagram feed. It's the LinkedIn update.
It's the suit you wear to the interview. It's the calm, patient voice you use when your kid is screaming in the grocery store. It's the polished, competent persona.
And the backstage.
The backstage is the reality. It's where you panic, where you doubt yourself, where you leave the dishes in the sink for 3 days straight.
And the problem is the comparison. It has to be.
The comparison trap is fatal here. You have access to 100% of your own backstage. You see every single moment of your own incompetence. You know about the dishes.
But you only see everyone else's front stage.
Right. So you're comparing your blooper reel
to everyone else's highlight movie.
And that creates a massive distortion field. You walk into a meeting, everyone looks so professional. You assume they feel professional. But statistically, they are likely looking right back at you thinking, wow, they have it so together, while internally panicking about their own backstage mess.
Goffman had this concept of tact that I found really interesting. It's almost like a conspiracy of politeness.
It's collusion. That's a great word for it. Society only functions because we all agree to pretend the performance is real. If you are giving a presentation and you stumble or you have a piece of spinach in your teeth, what does the audience do?
Pretend we didn't notice. Look away.
We help you save face. We ignore the crack in the mask.
Yeah.
But because we all do this constantly, it reinforces the idea that everyone else is perfect.
So we're all upholding the illusion of adulthood for each other.
We are. So faking it isn't lying in this view. It's the social lubricant that keeps civilization from collapsing.
That's a huge thought.
I mean, if we all walked around exposing our backstages, constantly screaming about our insecurities, and admitting we don't know how taxes work, society would grind to a halt. The performance is functional.
Okay, so we've got the psychological software update with Keegan and the sociological stage play with Goffman. But I want to push on something else.
Wait for it.
Because sometimes I don't feel like I'm struggling because of my mindset. I feel like I'm struggling because I'm tired, and my brain literally won't do the thing I want it to do.
Well, that might not be psychology. That might be hardware.
My hardware.
Your literal brain architecture. We have this assumption that by 18, the factory is done building the machine.
But it's not.
Not even close.
Yep.
The sources on neurobiology were pretty clear. The construction crew is still there well into your late 20s.
You're talking about the prefrontal cortex.
The PFC,
Yeah.
the CEO of the brain. It handles executive function, impulse control, long-term planning, emotional regulation, all the adult stuff.
And the data shows this doesn't finish developing until age 25, and for many people, closer to 30.
Exactly.
So when that Reddit user, Unhappy Night, says they feel like they're just acting, they're legally liable for their life, but they are biologically running on beta software.
That's a perfect way to put it. There is a literal gap between the demands society places on you and the hardware you have to meet them. You're being asked to make 30-year-old decisions with a brain that is still finalizing its wiring.
Of course, it feels like you're faking it.
You're reaching for a capacity you don't fully possess yet.
But here's the kicker. It doesn't seem to stop at 30. We had that source from the AARP and that Reddit thread where people in their 50s and 60s were chiming in.
The aging paradox. This was fascinating to me. You'd think by 60 you'd finally feel like an adult.
We'd hope so.
But 57% of people over 60 reported feeling younger than their actual age. There was one comment from a user whose parents were in their late 70s. They asked them, "Do you feel like you're 18?" And the parents just smiled and said yes.
That's the essential you, right? The part of you that observes the world doesn't seem to get wrinkles.
It doesn't. We expect that one day we will wake up and the internal voice will sound like Morgan Freeman-wise and commanding. But usually, the internal voice still sounds like the teenager we were.
We just get better at managing it.
We get better props.
Yeah.
We get better scripts. But the actor inside, they're still young.
I find that incredibly comforting, honestly. If my dad, who seemed like a titan of industry to me, felt like a kid winging it, then maybe I'm doing okay.
You absolutely are. And this leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, which is reframing the fear itself. Because when you feel like a fraud, you usually label it imposter syndrome.
Which is a buzzword we hear constantly. Oh, I have such bad imposter syndrome today.
It is. But let's contrast it with its opposite, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, the Mount Stupid thing.
It's a cruel name, but it's accurate. Dunning-Kruger is where incompetent people are incredibly confident because they don't know enough to know what they don't know.
They lack the ability to see their own gaps.
Right. Ignorance is bliss, or at least ignorance is loud.
Very loud.
Now, imposter syndrome is often the opposite. It typically affects high achievers. And why is that?
Because the more you learn.
The more you realize how much you don't know. The circle of your knowledge expands, but the circumference of your ignorance expands with it. You become painfully aware of the complexity of the world.
So feeling like an imposter is actually a receipt, a sign that you are competent.
It is a sign of self-awareness. It means you are looking at the standard of stage 4, or mastery, and realizing you aren't quite there yet. The person who doesn't feel like an imposter is often the one you should worry about.
Because they aren't examining themselves.
They're not. So that puts a whole new spin on the 23-year-old intern who is terrified they're going to get fired. That fear means they care. It means they're paying attention.
It's a growing pain, not a death sentence.
Exactly.
So let's try to synthesize this. Let's tie this massive stack of info together. You started with the question, is everyone else figuring it out? Or are we all acting?
And the answer seems to be a resounding, we are all acting. But the acting isn't malicious, it's structural.
It's a mix of things. First, it's Keegan's developmental shift. We're moving from needing external validation to building an internal compass. And that transition is messy.
It feels like pretending.
Right.